All right, welcome. This is episode 9 of Fantasy Baseball Camp. We got the whole camp here tonight. Will, Wes, Tommy. Guys, how you doing? Will, we'll start with you.
I'm doing good. I got, two of the top fantasy pitchers right now, and Garrett Cole and McClanahan, so we're feeling good right now. Until
Everyone
one
always wants
gets
starting
injured.
pitching.
Yeah, then we'll see.
those aren't too injury prone guys, right? Cole's
No.
pretty consistent.
Yeah, they've been pretty consistent, thankfully. So fingers crossed it stays that way.
All right, Wes, how you doing tonight, man?
So I've continued my streak of Jekyll and Hyde this year. Last week scored the most points. This week I have the least points, currently at 78. Not great so far this week.
Well, I guess I was going to say it's only Wednesday, but today's Thursday.
It's Thursday.
And Mr. Bryce Harper, how are you down there, Tommy?
We're feeling good. We got a massive cast in our arm. We're going 5 for 5 for on base. And I'm also, unlike Will, I'm searching high and low for starting pitching, picking up anybody I can. I swapped out basically all my minors, position players for starter pitchers. I may have found one. We're going to talk about them today.
But Will at least has pitchers to start, though. You're searching high and low for pitchers to start.
Yes.
It'd be like that sometimes, though.
My offense is the best in the league, but my pitching,
It got quiet right there. So we'll move into some notes. We got some job changes going on in the MLB that could impact fantasy. One guy, Wes, you talked about Matt Strahm as possibly a pickup if he could go longer. Looks like he's moving to the bullpen when Ranger Suarez returns, so that's a little disappointment as Strahm was doing well.
Yeah, obviously I'm not in the clubhouse. I don't really understand the move. The guy's hot, and let him pitch. He's winning games for you, but obviously Strahm can be great out of the bullpen for him too. We'll see how it plays out in Philly. Hopefully he gets another chance before the season's over with.
Yeah. Hey, the long reliever's a valuable guy. When someone gives up 3 runs in the first or fourth and can't handle it.
Yeah. And hey, maybe he becomes a spark for next year.
Right. So I guess he's just moving into a bullpen role that leaves people without a good closer slot. Tommy, is there some closers to fill in for Matt Strahm if you were filling in Matt Strahm as a spark?
Well, I don't have another spark replacement, but if Matt Strom's not getting the saves or the RP, you could still look up for Jose Alvarado with the Phillies. He may still be able to get some saves. Craig Kimbrell has not been good, so I think the job is quickly going to become Jose Alvarado's.
I think it's been Alvarado's. I don't think it's been Kimbrell's.
Kimbrell's still getting opportunities, but I think that's quickly about to go away.
Yeah, and then another guy that you could look at adding if you need RP, Will Smith has been named the Rangers closer. So that's to have a good closer on a good team. Usually that'll get you at least a save.
I'm sorry. I'm wearing a Brave shirt. I'm tainted by Will Smith. I can't trust him. Definitely not in Texas.
But you can trust your current closer, huh, Wes?
Have you seen
AJ Minter?
Duran? Oh, God, no. I thought you were talking about my fantasy closer, Duran. No.
No.
I don't trust AJ Minter at all.
Have you seen Will Smith's Baseball Savant this year? Take a look when you get a chance. You may change your mind. He's found something.
That's the thing with closers and why you don't spend money on them in fantasy baseball. They change every year.
Always fluctuates. Always.
Timmy Trumpet.
Just because you and I think alike, but okay.
I'm not saying he's going to be him, but his Savant is beautifully red.
Yeah. All right. So then, how about major injuries this week? I would say, of course, Tommy mentioned Bryce Harper is back. So that's a good news injury. How about the biggest name, Will? Who's the biggest name that went down this week?
Aaron Judge. hate it for Ethan.
Maybe it was. Well, it's not Ethan. He's not on Ethan's team anymore.
True. We just had a big trade in our league today where Verlander was moved for Aaron Judge. I forgot about that. So that'll be interesting to
Yeah.
see, how he bounces back from that. If that's going to be one of those that lingers, affects his swing a little bit when the hip. So
I think
I don't
that's
know.
fair. Judge, who has a major swing mechanic injury, and for old man Verlander, who started the year in an injury, I
Yeah.
think he always went that.
Did Verlander start today?
Yeah, he gave up 2 home runs in the first
two,
inning.
two solo
Javi
shots.
Baez took him deep. Riley Green and Javi Baez back to back.
It wasn't a bad start, all things considered. It was just a bad start to the
That was
start.
like Baez's first hit of the season too, I think. Maybe a second.
He must have opened his eyes on that swing.
Yeah.
So, all right, and then another injury I think that can impact some top drafted players. Kyle Wright back to the IL. Is who can we look at to replace him? Is Dylan Dodd good enough to grab and start?
No, Dylan Dodd is not your replacement for Kyle Wright.
Anybody have a suggestion of who they could pick up? Maybe who we can use this to jump right into our waiver wires portion here.
I mean, I can give you the guy that I'm going to talk about, and I mentioned at the top that I'm scouring high and low, and just maybe may have unlocked somebody. That's Bryce Miller. He pitched for. I may pick up his game. He had his first start of his career with Seattle. So Robbie Ray went down, and I had Robbie Ray. So the first thing I did was pick up Bryce Miller. He was a pretty good prospect. I don't think he's the top guy, and anybody expected this out of him. But he went perfect through 5 innings and ended up finishing 6 innings. 2 hits, 1 earned run, 10 strikeouts, no walks. I think that's a record for a debut. No strikeouts with no walks.
And also the record, he tied the Mariners record at 9 strikeouts for most strikeouts in a debut, and then broke the record with 10. So then Bryce Miller's 10 strikeouts, I think, was the most for a rookie debut in the American League.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm trying to tamper my expectations because it was against the A's, but he looked absolutely fantastic. I'm not trying to get my hopes up too much. I will say, Sarah says some really good stuff with Stuff Plus. All 4 of his pitches rated out over 100, which means they're all above average. And his fastball was second only to Jacob deGrom with Stuff Plus at a plus 146, I believe. This is from memory. So his fastball actually had the least amount of drop, 10 vertical inches of break. So basically it looks like it's coming at you and rising, where most fastballs dive because of gravity. And so it's just deception for hitters that aren't used to it. So hitters may pick up on this, but I think for a while he has an opportunity to be sneaky good. And he throws pretty quick too. He can hit 97, 98.
Well, you just doomed him because you compared him to Jacob deGrom. So
that's true.
Hey, tell me, I've looked at Stuff Plus, but where can you find Stuff Plus? I think it's a pretty awesome stat for those that might not have seen it or heard of it.
I may be multiple places. The only place I know of it is Fangraphs. You go to the pitching leaderboard, and then down below there's pitch modeling, and there's a Stuff Plus tab. I'm doing that from memory, but I think that's pretty close. Hopefully you guys will be able to find it. It's interesting to see, like, oh, this guy's not very good, but his fastball is plus 150. What's so good about it? And you just see that he paints it. It's got amazing break. It's got inverted whatever. And so if he can harness that pitch with a changeup, he may be somebody good, someone to look out for.
I love it because it's like when you're watching a guy pitch and you're like, his fastball looks good, but how good is it really? Like, it kind of gives validity to that. Oh, his fastball really is good. Like it's Jacob deGrom, like for Miller.
Yeah. So like as a pitcher or player whole, we use WRC Plus to compare them to everybody else. This is a way not just to only compare pitcher to pitcher, but pitch to pitch specifically. Yeah. I think it's a fun tool for nerds like Wes and I.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
if you are looking to add a pitcher like this, and you currently have Taj Bradley, are you dropping Taj for Bryce Miller?
No. I would have said no a couple weeks ago, but Taj got sent down. If you look at the stat line, he threw 8 innings and 12 earned runs, and it was something really bad in AAA. He had 2 starts. I think he got 8 of those 12 in 1 inning. So he may have gone down, kind of had his hopes up, like, hey, I'm supposed to be at the big league level. I don't have the same intensity. If you're desperate for pitching, Bryce
is Bryce's job secure?
I was just about to say his job's gonna be more secure. They basically handed it to him with Robbie Ray being out. They don't have a replacement for him, and they're gonna raise him.
The Rays, man, you just can't expect anything from them. Like the only thing you can expect from them is to be unexpected. They'll send people down for no reason. They'll bring them back up. Who knows? I mean, nobody knows what the rates. Taj Bradley having a secure job. Who knows? They might bring him up and put him in the bullpen for absolutely no reason.
That sounds like a Ray thing to do. That's a hard one, though. It's only one start. See what he does again. Taj isn't up, so you don't have to make that decision.
It was against the Oakland A's. It was a great debut booster for the guy. So you want to see him face maybe the Guardians as the next step, a team that's not going to.
Houston is his next game, and after that, Detroit. So you get another easy matchup and a hard matchup. So we'll see what comes out of that.
There you go. All right, let's jump into Will. Will, why don't you give us a waiver wire? You don't want to give us a guy that you've been eyeing to add?
Yeah, so from a hitter's perspective, looking for another hitter here. I have him in one league, added him in another, but Miguel Vargas for the Dodgers. He's had an everyday role since the season started, and they have faith in him and been giving him opportunities. His on-base percentage is great, and he draws a lot of walks. But he's just now starting to put it together, outside of that. He's had 19 points last week, 23.5 already this week. So he's looking good, kind of putting it all together. And again, the everyday role is there. So he has dual eligibility at first and second. So if you're hurting in one of those spots, it may be worth a flyer, maybe worth a look at.
Yeah, especially second base. Second base usually is a weaker position. But like you see, today's only Thursday, and he's got 23.5 points and hasn't even gotten to the weekend yet.
Yeah, 19 last week. So he's trending up. And like I said, the on-base percentage is there. He walks at a great rate. So, it's there. And the expected stats are there if you look at it. So I would hope to see him, continue this, low 20s range. I mean, I don't think he's going to go out and hit a ton of home runs, but, get on base at a high rate, get some RBIs, run scored, that kind of thing.
The Dodgers were very high on him. I mean, in spring training, they wanted him to get so many looks, even though he couldn't swing the bat. You guys remember that? He literally just came and stood in the box.
Yeah, I had a thumb issue, I think. So he was just taking ABs. And I think there for a while, he had a couple walks and they couldn't strike him out, even though he was not swinging the bat. I don't know what's up with that. But
yeah, they knew he wasn't going to swing and he was still getting on base. Maybe the pitcher used that as an opportunity to really try to put some extra spin on something. Who knows? So, all right. How about Tommy, a guy that you're on? We already got your pitcher side of things. So actually, then let's skip Tommy for a second since we heard about Bryce Miller and go right to Wes. Wes, who's your guy to add?
Yeah, so my guy to add, I just picked him up in our league, is going to be Tyler Wells with Baltimore. So he's not going to be a guy that blows you away, right? He's not. His fastball is good, but he lives off a spin, and he gets he has a high whiff rate and a high spin rate. So he's not striking out that many batters per nine. But in every start he's made this year so far, he's gone 5 innings. He's had 2 starts where he's given up 4 runs. Every other start he's given up less than 4, and he's only had 1 start where he's walked more than 1. So it's kind of a low expectations. The Orioles are a good team, so I'm picking him up with the expectation that if I need a guy as a 5th starter, I can kind of count on him to go in and get 5 innings for me. So yeah, if you look at his baseball savant page, his CSW, so that's called strikes plus swinging strikes, is a little over 25%, which is pretty good for a guy that doesn't have just pure electric stuff. Do I trust him totally? Not entirely. We'll see. But for a 2-start week or a streamer type guy, I would definitely look at Tyler Wells.
Yeah, when the Baltimore Orioles have only lost 6 games, their offense is rolling. You just need the guy to go out there and give you a quality start, and that's 20 points right there, probably 5 innings, 6 innings, quality start, even if he's not striking a lot of guys out.
And I'll make another point just for like fantasy purposes. Right now, the state of pitching, there are guys that you're like, hey, this guy's an ace, and he goes out and gives up 6 runs. I'm not entirely sure what's going on with the state of baseball this year, but pitching has been volatile. So if you can find somebody that's consistent, even if that guy's giving you 10, 12 points, I'm sure I'll take him, and I feel like that's the kind of guy that Tyler Wells is going to be.
Yeah. What are the other names? I mean, Kyle Bradish was a guy that looked like you could trust in Baltimore's rotation. He got shelled last week. What are the rotation options for the Orioles besides Grayson Rodriguez?
Yeah, and Grayson Rodriguez kind of got shelled today too. But Tyler Wells is one. Who else do they have?
Rodriguez, Kyle Bradish.
They got Kyle
They've got
Gibson, who's and Dean Kramer.
yeah,
So
those are rough
look,
options
that
for Baltimore.
We got some very
yeah,
forgetful names.
yeah, no real aces there. I mean, Grayson
And they're
Rodriguez has
21
still
and
only made
6.
5 starts. Yeah,
They're 21
right.
and 6. So
I can imagine they're going to be buyers at the deadline for a starting pitcher.
if they're not, then their front office has failed them and their fan base.
Yeah.
Not just their team, those players that are working to
Yeah.
get that kind of record. I'd be pissed as a player. So, all right, well, let me guys give you my player to add, and I know Tommy will love this one. It is Jarren Duran.
Yeah.
Jarren Duran didn't get called up to start the season, right, Tommy? And since his call up from AAA April 17th, he has done nothing but hit. And suddenly you see the Red Sox take off a little bit. I mean, him and Verdugo are endeavors just carrying the team, right? Verdugo, Duran,
Yoshida.
Devers, and Yoshida. Yoshida's up there too. But
yeah, that's the
Yoshida's on fire right now.
But
Red
those
Sox are
three are
like-
probably all owned already. Duran, you might still be able to grab.
Yeah, one thing about Duran
that's
is
probably true.
he the last 2 years he tried to go for too much power. He's jacked, he's swollen, he's a big dude, but he tried to play up for his power, and he's changed his swing. He's going the opposite way, using the green monster to his advantage, and he has 10 doubles if he didn't hit another one tonight in like 2 or 3 weeks, which is incredible rate pace. I mean, he's just transformed his swing to knowing, hey, if I hit the ball hard enough, it's going to go out, but I'm not trying to do that anymore. And you see what's happening. 400 average, 2 home runs by accident. He's great.
He's playing to
Duran-
his strengths rather than trying to force it.
He's only owned in 55% of leagues right now in CBS.
Right, and so he was a top prospect for the Red Sox who just kind of came up, didn't work out, and so he's kind of a sleeper breakout, or what's the term I'm looking for? Past breakout, past
late bloomer,
post hype
late
sleeper.
bloomer,
post hype sleeper. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Duvall went down and everybody was terrified, and he has field issues and maybe then some. I mean, not quite the power, but he's just getting on base and his speed. He's taken away 2 or 3 outs with his speed and just getting on base. Standard hits turn into or standard ground balls outs turn to singles because of speed. He's so fast.
Yeah, if the Red Sox are scoring runs. If they could just figure out it on the defensive side of things, pitching, and if Casas put it back together now, watch out. The Red Sox could be dangerous. Starting at the year at the bottom in the cellar of the AL East now, they're climbing.
Second most runs in the league next to the Rays. It's the only people more.
But so the third most runs given up by far.
Yeah, pitching's horrible, but
offense. Well,
So, all right, that was my Adrian Duran. If he's still available, I would go grab him. So, Tommy, let's bounce back to you. And you want to give a player to avoid or a player to add?
I'll stay with the theme and give you a player to add. This is probably more of a categories league approach, but we're going to go Estoy. How do you say his name? Ruiz?
Estuary.
Yeah, Estuary. Anyways, I watched him play a little bit. He's with the Oakland A's, and so he's not going to get a ton of their support, but he's 55% rostered.
And he was a top prospect with the San Diego Padres.
Yeah, he's prospect with the Padres. I think went to the Brewers, and they got sent to the A's with that Brewers Braves trade. And he's not doing a ton of things great. He's hitting 265, 341 on base, which is fine. His slug's 327. He's not going to give you any power. But the reason he's good is 13 stolen bases already. That's up in the top league. I'm not sure who's leading it right now. Cunha maybe still, but every time he gets on base and he's sitting on first, he's trying to steal. So I think that's the reason you want him. He may finish the year with 50 steals at this pace. I don't think points leagues or shallow leagues he has much of value. But stolen bases, if you need him, he's somebody to get. He's only rostered in half the leagues.
You might wonder if the A's can put an offense together. I don't think they have the pitching necessarily to do anything, but if Perez here can learn to Juan Pierre it, poke the ball into the gap and use that speed to get a double. I mean, 7 doubles already is very good. 13 stolen bases is top tier. So the guy it's really just you playing Oakland with that bad start. Everyone on that team is being slept on. And I think if you watch closely, you could find some great picks off that team. Him being one of them, and Brent Rooker being another.
I don't have any expectations for pitchers to get wins. Did you guys see that fun statistic going on Twitter about him or the A's and Bryce Harper?
No.
So Bryce
No, I
Harper
didn't
had
see it.
Tommy John surgery on November 2nd. The A's have not had a starting pitcher win their game since Bryce Harper had Tommy John. He's back, which is a long recovery time for him. So that's playing with a little bit, but a starting pitcher has not got to win.
In that Mason Miller versus Bryce Miller matchup, Mason Miller came out 7 no-hit innings. He had to come out after 100 pitches. 2 batters later, the bullpen gave up a run. 2 batters was all it took.
So counting stats and run support, they don't expect him to be there.
Yeah, that was a great start by Mason Miller. I think he would be a must add if he was on any other team. Must add.
Yeah, I would agree. It was a fun start to watch, just in general, between both Miller and Miller.
Yeah, how could you turn a no hitter versus no hitter off, or perfect game versus no hitter off?
Like two rookies who were both like 98 to 100.
Then the problem was if you wanted to go to sleep after, you're like, oh, the first no hitter broke. You're like, but there's more.
And I'm on Eastern time, man, and these guys are on the West Coast, and I'm like, I can't. I got to go to bed.
So, all right, let's keep moving. Will, how about player to avoid or player to add?
Yeah, I'll give you a player to avoid. And sorry, Tommy, but it's Nick Pivetta. I just don't buy it. He'll do this thing where he'll have one great outing like he did. I think it was last night, scores 22 points. Then he goes back to, really struggling. He's had a 4.5 plus ERA, each of the last 2 seasons. And he's at 4.99 this year. I just don't buy it. And so I would avoid him, although he had a good start. Pitching's thin. You're probably grasping, looking for whatever is out there. But, as Tommy mentioned on some waiver wire options with Bryce Miller, I would go for someone like that. I wouldn't buy Nick Pivetta at this point, given what we've seen in the past. It's kind of up and down roller coaster with him at times.
He's one of those guys that you. No, go ahead, Tommy.
I can't disagree with you. He's a much better MLB asset than he's a fantasy asset. He goes every 5 days. He pitches 5 or 6 innings. He keeps you somewhat in the game, but he's not going to go out and score you a ton of points on a regular basis. So I can't disagree with you.
Yeah. You wonder if the game of fantasy starting pitchers is you have to strictly watch matchups and look for the players who you might not like Nick Pivetta, and look, he's playing Washington, and then you start him. But otherwise, no, you don't start him.
Yeah. Every year, I would agree with you. This year,
yeah.
Max Scherzer and Verlander just got
a toss-up, man.
Max Scherzer and Verlander just got swept by the Tigers, so I would normally agree with you, but like Wes said, I got no clue what starting pitching's doing this year.
Yeah, well, Max Scherzer's got to find his new sticky stuff, and Verlander just has to get his new shoulder going.
Can we talk about that for a second?
Let's go.
Oh man, Tommy sent me a graphic earlier, and it's all over Instagram and Twitter. So by the time you're hearing this, you've probably seen it, about Max Scherzer's spin rates being down, like
on every pitch,
bit, like on every pitch, and 200 RPMs. Like if you're listening to this, 200 RPMs on spin rate is a lot. That's 2,000 to 2,200. That's a lot. So look, man.
You couldn't cheat. You couldn't cheat on your first game back from being caught cheating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a trade ready to go where I was going to acquire Max Scherzer, and then I was like, well, I just want to see the start. I'll just let that hang out there. And the numbers came in. He went 3.1 innings, and I started digging into it. Spin rates were down. Velocity was down. Everything was like, I think I'm going to back out of this. We'll
Unless
see
you
what's
were
going
buying low on him.
No, because I was giving out high. The player I was returning was worthwhile.
That's just you. Okay.
I need starting pitching.
All right, let's keep moving then. If we want to get through everybody's ads and avoids, let's go back to Wes. What do you got, an add or avoid for us?
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a player to add. I'm picking this guy because I had him in my minors for 3 years. I waited. He got hurt. He played a little bit. He got hurt again. Nick Senzel, just been up and down career for him so far. He hasn't really been able to stay healthy, but so far this year, he's kind of put together a little bit of a under the radar type good year. 288 so far, 3 home runs, 2 stolen bases. In week 4, he scored 38.5 points. So, and look, he plays in Cincinnati, so the offensive potential is going to be there at least for half the year. He was a huge prospect coming up. I think he was a 3rd pick overall in the draft, and he was. Did he get up to top 10, top 100 prospects?
Yeah, he was in top 10. Yep.
I think he was in the top 10. I mean, he was a huge
and fought
prospect
over
coming up. So, yeah. So I feel like he's kind of getting to the point where maybe he might have the opportunity to achieve his potential. So I would definitely pick Senzel up as a guy that I can bench and then start if he can kind of maintain this over the next week.
Yeah. It's hard. He scores 38.5. You see that? That's almost the kind of point where you add him real quick because he had one good week. And you be sure to check those matchups.
Yeah, and for him, he has to stay healthy. That's why I say I wouldn't start him immediately. I would kind of pick him up and then just see how he goes for the next week, maybe 2 weeks. Make sure that he is actually breaking out. But I'll tell you, his baseball savant page is pretty red. The only thing, his hard hit rate is average to below average, but everything else looks really good.
There you go. All right, Tommy, give me a player to avoid.
Yeah, I'm glad you gave me time to do that. I had to do a little more extra research. I'm going to give you Brandon Drury. So the last 2 weeks, I knew what I was going to say. I just going to look at some stats. The last 2 weeks, he's been red hot. He hit 5 home runs, 14 hits, OPS over 1,000. You're thinking, oh, Brandon Drury's back. He was fantastic with the Reds last year, but he's playing in Great American Ballpark, and anybody's good there. He got traded to the Padres, and he kind of went downhill. Now he's with the Angels, and he's slumps, and he had a good week, but I just don't trust it. He's got a 33% strikeout rate with a 4% walk rate, which is horrible, especially for a points league.
Who are you talking about?
Brandon Drury.
Brandon Drury.
With the Angels, second baseman, third baseman, utility guy. Just had a hot couple weeks, so some people may see that and say, oh, he's about to break out. No, he's not. His strikeout rate's horrendous. His chase rate's horrendous. He doesn't walk. He strikes out too much.
So you're calling an end to the breakout?
I'm just not calling it a breakout. End of the hot streak.
I'm calling it end of the hot streak. Yeah.
His weighted on base average is league average, just because of the last 2 weeks and it's a small sample size. But his expected weighted on base average is like 20% below league average. It's horrible. So it tells you, if you're not familiar with weighted on base average, it's basically the on base percentage statistic, but a super formula of that. Because if you walk or you get a home run, and on base is on base. But in this formula, the weighted on base average, it takes into account home runs and doubles are weighted more than a walk or hit by pitch. And so his xWOBA being significantly lower just tells you he's not making good contact. When he is getting on base, it's a walk, or it's a hit by pitch, or it's a single. He's striking out too much, and so it's not going to give you what you want in a fantasy league. And I just don't trust him to continue this at all.
Okay, so you mentioned Brandon Drury, Nick Senzel, Miguel Vargas, and then let's throw in a third one. That's Nick Senzel's outfielder, Brandon Drury, and Miguel Vargas. Rank those 3 for me, Will. Nick Senzel, Brandon Drury, and Miguel Vargas.
To add? You talking about to add?
In order of who you'd want to own.
I'd say Vargas 1, Senzel 2. You said Drury, and who was the last one?
Just Drury.
Oh, and yeah, I'd put Drury 3rd based on what Tommy said.
Senzel's only owned 31%, Drury's 76%, and I don't have Vargas's ownership.
Vargas is 71, so he's below
71.
Drury then, yeah.
So Drury's the most owned, followed by Vargas, and then Senzel way down there.
And that's probably due to a little bit of Drury's year last year. You know, last year was kind of was highest scoring year by far that he's ever had. Kind of came out of
And that was in
nowhere,
Cincinnati, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, you know, there's your answer, your reasoning.
Right. It's almost a Coors effect. You expect almost Will Myers to do something this year in Cincinnati.
So could I break us up for just a second? The listeners may not be familiar with it. We talk a lot about, it's Coors Field, or it's Fenway, or it's Yankee Stadium, or it's, Arizona. Like, why does it matter? Ballparks. If you're not familiar with it, I think you should go look into ballpark factors on Fangraphs or Baseball Savant. Both of them have them. And the baseball fields are not all created equal. Some have short portions, like Arizona or the Astros. Left field is super short. There's a small portion.
Yeah, the Crawford boxes, man. Yeah.
Yankee Stadium's known for the short portion right field. Colorado has high altitudes. The ball carries. If you watch the Mexico series, it's 2,000 feet above that. There was 11 home runs in a game. So just playing at small ballparks, playing at high altitude can really help you out versus like Miami, massive ballpark inside, no high humidity. It's harder to hit home run in Miami. So when we talk about that, it does carry some weight because, the difference in 360 versus 370 can be an out or a home run.
Yeah, and I'm glad you actually brought that up, Tommy, because for a guy like Drury, right, when we're talking about, we don't really believe in his breakout. Like, we believe he was on a hot streak, and now that hot streak's over, so I probably wouldn't start him. I might drop him. But, a guy going from a place like Cincinnati to where he's playing now in LA, you can't expect him to have the same stats and put up the same numbers that he did last year, right? Or let's go vice versa. Let's say a guy like Chris Bryant, right, who he was hurt last year, when he was in Colorado, but now he's healthy and he could put up huge numbers because he's in Colorado, right? So I guess the ballpark factor is relevant in fantasy, knowing when guys are in places that are hitter friendly and or pitchers that are in places that are pitcher
friendly. Right. Yeah, I think Chris Bryant could be a sleeping giant in Coors Field if he can just put his whole body back together with something besides super glue. All right, I'm going to give you guys a player to avoid. Marcell Ozuna, the guy may be batting for the current period 407 with 2 home runs, 2 walks, and 6 RBIs, but do not be fooled. The guy on the year is batting 147 with a slugging of 338. Do not let those home runs this week, multi-home run week, fool you. 19 strikeouts in 20 games. He cannot be relied on. And that's all I have to say. 2022, the guy batted the last 2022 and 2021, he didn't have a slugging percentage above 415.
I think Marcell Ozuna might be the most extreme case of a streaky hitter that I think I've ever seen. Like, he will be so hot for 5 games, hit 7 home runs, and then over the next 7 games, he'll strike out 22 times.
I would start, if I had to start. All right, hold on. Let me get a list here to get of one more player. Let me get one more player. Wes, give me a player to avoid.
All right, the player that I'm going to talk about to avoid is going to be Michael Kopech. The reason I bring him up is because he did have a good start. I think that was yesterday or 2 days ago, where he went 6 innings. I think he struck out 7, 1 hit, 1 earned run, which, for everyone that's been waiting on Michael Kopech to kind of live up to the prospect hype that he had, you're like, okay, maybe he's turning the corner. He's finally there. I'm going to give you 3 stats as to why I'm not believing in Michael Kopech. All right. Number 1 is he's first percentile in hard hit rate. All right. That's not good. That's as bad as you could possibly be. If you go to his Baseball Savant page, he is in the bottom 2 or 3 of pitchers in hard hit rate. All right. On top of that, bottom 1% of barrel rate. And to couple that with bottom 10% in walks. So not only is he getting hit really hard, he's walking a ton of people. And guess what? In his last start that he just went 6 innings, he walked 5 people, right? So, I
Walks
mean,
hurt.
he's going to get, yeah, like the 6 innings, 1 hit, 1 and run to me with 5 walks, that's just luck. So I'm avoiding Michael Kopech at all costs. I'm honestly completely out on him at this point in time. I mean, he's borderline droppable for me. I mean, I have no interest in starting him. And the White Sox suck, so.
Yeah, you can't rely on the White Sox for anything. Manager, defense, offense. I think their window, I think they missed it. I think it's over.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
All right. Will, I see in notes you got a player to avoid for us.
Yeah, I put in Trent Grisham on there because he's coming off a bad year last year where I think he batted 188, and you would expect him to put it together being in this lineup, this all around him, but he's still batting 236. He's striking out a lot. He's not hitting enough homers to make up for that low average right now, so he's not really producing. So, I would avoid him at all costs right now from a fantasy perspective. Maybe turn it around, but for now, I'm avoiding.
I'm going to list 4 players. I want you guys to rank them in ownership. Who you would actually want to own: Ozuna, Javier Baez, Trent Grisham, or Tristan Casas. Wes, let's hear it. Number 1.
I think I would probably go Casas 1.
Of those, how about of those? Yeah, of those 4, would you own any of them?
I would own Casas. I would own Casas for no other reason than upside, because just based on his minor league track record, based on the fact that, hey, the Red Sox score the second most runs in the league, as Tommy had mentioned earlier. So I just feel like there's a point in time where Casas is probably going to hit the light switch and he's going to turn it on and he's going to be a lot better player. I think the track record kind of speaks to that. It might take him a little while, but I think he obviously has more upside than Ozuna. And who are the other guys? Baez and who else?
Javier Baez, Trent Grisham, and Casas.
Trent Grisham. I feel like Trent Grisham's he's just kind of showed us the player that he is. I don't think he's a high ceiling player. I don't really think you can expect much more of him than what he's given us over the past few years, which is a 240 hitter. Maybe he's a 15, 18 homer guy and he plays great defense, right? Like he's just not been a terribly relevant fantasy player. So I would say for me, it would be Casas. Unfortunately, I would say Baez, Ozuna, and then Trent Grisham. But you
have Ozuna over Baez?
No, I would have Baez over Ozuna.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misheard that then. Yeah. I was like, man.
Yeah, no, I love when Ozuna's hot because he can carry a team for a week, but I know that next week he's going to strike out 30 times. So.
Tommy, rank those 4 for me: Ozuna, Javier Baez, Trent Grisham, Tristan Casas.
Yeah, I think I'm with Wes. I'm on the fence with getting Grisham third to last on that one. I feel like he's still got a little bit there. He's a good prospect for a while. I think Ozuna's on his way out. But I think I'm with Wes.
Which is Casas, Baez, Grisham, Ozuna?
No, I think I'm Grisham, Ozuna. Yeah. Is that what he said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Casas, Baez.
No, Grisham, I went Ozuna, then
Can we all just agree that there's nobody we're starting none of these, even if we're maybe rostering Casas?
Yeah, right. I'm not starting any of these guys.
You can just cut this out and edit. No one wants to hear this part. It's not worth your time.
Like if you're in a deep league, like a 15-team league, like, okay, this might be relevant, man. I find it hard to roster any of the 4 of the guys, much less start them.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I think that covers our waiver wire episode here. We got injury notes. We got some add-ins for those injuries. Any last words, guys, for a waiver wire episode as we go to close this episode out?
Hey, man, if you find pitchers, let us know because we're looking for them just as much as everybody else.
Yeah. Hit us up on our Instagrams. Wes is BNB_Wes. Tommy is BNB_Lombard. Co-Shaver. There's BNB_Co-Shaver, and I am BNB_Burns. Or hit us up on the main page. It's Fantasy Baseball Camp on Instagram. Check us out on YouTube. We have graphics as showing up on this podcast. On you can see all the video on YouTube as well. Leave us a rating. Be sure to subscribe to let us know that you're following us and listening to us. We keep getting a little bit more activity on Twitter. Hey, would you start or would you keep player X or player Y? That's what we're here for. That's what we're all about. So keep it coming, and be sure to listen we're putting out more episodes during the week, more on a regular basis, more than one a week. So be on the lookout for that, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks.